Welcome, dear listeners, to Broadcast from Elsewhere. We discuss media you may not hear about elsewhere. I'm your host, Nick. Today is day 4, or episode 4, rather, of No Way November. We're looking at So Bad They're Good. Today, pose a question. If you were to take an alcoholic who's barely a cop, perform a ritual on him, what do you think would happen? If you instantly become a werewolf and a slightly better cop, you'd be right. And you'd also be a great guesser. Or you may have also just read the title of the podcast. That's right, today we are taking a look at the 2014 movie Wolfcop, coming from Canada this time. First non-American film that I'm looking at. Wolfcop is a comedic horror movie. It's not too bad, in all honesty. It definitely has some uncomfortable moments, and we'll get into that in just a moment here. But overall, it's not too bad a movie. It's plenty wacky and ridiculous in certain instances, but, you know, it's par for the course with these kind of movies. And I feel like they were kind of aiming for that anyways. Like, So Bad They're Good status. But what I really like about these two films, because we're looking at both the original and the sequel today, what I really like about them is that they actually use practical effects. There is no CGI whatsoever. So anytime there's like a creature or anything like that, they use practical effects. Puppetry and suits and all that kind of stuff. It's my favorite kind of effects. I prefer those over CGI as long as they were done well, because there are practical effects that are, of course, not done well. It just comes with the territory, you know? I did really appreciate that they actually did practical effects here, and that they're actually carried out quite well, except for a few things in the second movie. But we'll get to that when we get to that. But the wolf costume looks pretty good, pretty convincing, I gotta say. Before we get into it, I do want to give a proper warning. If you decide you want to check out this movie before listening to this podcast, I do want to mention that it is a very, very bloody film in some respects, so if you can't stand the sight of blood, this is not for you, imagine. And also, if you're not a big fan of nudity, then this may also not be for you as well, as there are shots of the titular character's penis in both forms at some point. We get to see the human and the wolf junk. Wolf junk isn't until the second movie, but that's still, it's wolf junk, and it's not something anyone really needs to see, you know what I mean? There's also some they feel drawn out, and it's possibly just because of how awkward it is to watch, at least in my experience, but they feel pretty drawn out scenes of sex while in transformed states, and to me it's really off-putting because of the fact that it's a human interacting with a animalistic being, and that is kind of uncomfortable for me, personally speaking. I know there are people out there who enjoy things like monster fucking, and that's fine. If that's what you're into, that's what you're into. But when it's shown to you in a film and you're not expecting it, it can be a little jarring. So, nonetheless, without further ado, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the plot. Spoilers ahead, of course, for both movies. We open on the small town of Woodhaven. We see our titular Wolfcop in his human form, though, of course. He is not yet the wolf of legend. But it seems our poor boy here, Lou Guru is his name, is running a little late for work. So we get to see him rush out of bed, and we can tell he went on a little bit of a bender last night as he's vomiting before he can get into the car, and he's also woken up to a strange woman that he's never met before, it would seem. So, as he's pulling out of his driveway to head to work, here, nice little, what I like to call exposition radio. It's just the morning show that he's listening to, delivering the exposition that we need to hear. Through this morning show, we get to hear about the recent cats and dogs that have gone missing, that they apparently think there's a local bear that's been terrorizing the woods, apparently, that may be at fault for these disappearances. We also learn about a local mayoral election happening, And it's going to be a big change because because we have the current mayor running for re-election, of course, and we have a new candidate looking to come in and make some changes. Lou makes it to work. We find out he's been 2 hours late, which is not good for a cop, especially not good for his coworker Tina, who has been there covering for his ass for the last 2 hours. She's the night shift worker and he's the day shift worker. Honestly, if it was me, I would be very, very annoyed. Because I cannot fucking deal with people who can't show up on time like that. I wonder he's even still employed, honestly. Not just for that, but for other reasons, as you'll see. So, we also do get a little introduction to some characters that'll be important later. Like, we also do meet the chief here in the scene, and we get to meet these gang of robbers that call themselves the Piggies. They literally just run around in piggy masks, like, that they've altered a bit to make it look more horrific. And they rob places. That's the basic gist of it. Good, because it's Big Bad Wolf and 3 piggies. Ha ha ha. Wow. It was kind of funny for a pun, I'll bet. Lou gets a call for a disturbance at a gun shop, so we get to meet another main character here, which is Willie. He's basically Lou's best friend, it would seem. But Willie has some footage that he wants Lou to look at, and it's literally just a freaking... It didn't have to be footage, because it could have just been a picture, honestly. Because it just shows Willie walking through the woods and finding a pentagram, a metal pentagram that was hanging on a tree. Lou decides that that's probably not anything too important. He thinks it's just a bunch of metalheads that have, like, been partying in the woods or something. So, then we get to see Lou go to the bar while he's still on shift. So, what a great cop, right? Getting drunk on the job. And heck, even before that, we even get to see him pouring some whiskey into his coffee, and he pours like an ungodly amount. Like, they focus on him like pouring the flask in there for a good few seconds or so. And it's like, even Willie, who's there with him at the time, it's like, Jesus, Lou, like, goddamn, slow down. Like I said, this is our alcoholic hero, guys. While at the bar, we get to meet a few more important characters. We have the gang leader who shows up. He's dressed like fucking Neo in the Matrix when he fucking shows up the first time. He never dresses like that again after that, but it's just funny because he's wearing like a long, like, looked like a trench coat to me. And he's got like the shades and the slick back hair and everything. I was like, oh look, it's Neo. Anyways, it seems like him and Lou have had some run-ins before, which makes sense. He's a local gang leader. He works with those piggies I mentioned earlier. And we also get to meet Jessica, who's the bartender here. She'll become important later, but right now she's just kind of there. We also get to see the mayoral candidate, Terry Wallace, walk in. He tries to come in to campaign, but he gets booed away, and they start like throwing food at him. So it's like literally like a tomato throwing scene. So, not very successful. Later on that night, Lou gets a disturbance call once again for the woods outside of Willie's gun shop. So he goes to check out the disturbance in the woods, and he thinks once again it's these metalhead kids or something like that, right? So he's yelling like, "Hey, just go ahead and get out of here, so I don't have to do the extra paperwork or anything like that. Just, save me the trouble and get the hell out of here." But then he hears a scream. And of course, because it's a horror movie, we gotta run towards that scream, What else would you do? So, what he finds when he gets there is Terry Wallace from earlier. He's hanging from a tree upside down by his feet. Upon discovering him, Lou is swiftly knocked out. We get to see some brief flashes of some cult-like masks before we see Lou wake up in his bed the next day. He is, of course, very frazzled. He doesn't know what the hell happened, because last thing he remembered was he was inside, or he was in the forest inside. So, now that he's no longer there, it's very confusing. So he wakes up, though, and he starts to get ready for work. He attempts to shave, but when he shaves, the hair immediately grows back. Reminds me a bit of the Santa Claus from Tim watermelons in. So it is a lot like that in that situation. So he keeps going back, and then he notices the gash under his shirt. He lifts it up to reveal a pentagram that's been carved into his chest. A very large pentagram at that. It covers pretty much most of his chest, if not all of it. But he can't dwell on that too much because he gets a call from the chief to come to the woods to check out a scene. So we arrive at the crime scene in the woods, and it's none other than Terry Wallace, the same man we saw last night being hung from the tree by his feet. He's got large gashes in his chest and neck area. He's got a needle in his hand, a hypodermic needle. So clearly the scene here is to suggest that he's died of overdose, and the coroner, when he arrives on scene, agrees with that. But he also thinks that the gashes must have come from a scavenger animal, saying that Terry must have overdosed, died, and then had some other critters come and pick at him, like raccoons or something. Of course, personally to me, that doesn't make much sense. If it was a scavenger attack, you would see bites as well, not just gashes. But I digress. Characters have to be stupid for the point of the plot. So. Meanwhile, Lou takes a little sniff on the body, and he can get some flashes of a few events that took place last night. They're not very clear, though, and they come up rather fast, so it's hard to really get a good look at them. Unless it's all about the ritual that happened last night. Meanwhile, the current mayor announces that she'll be cancelling the upcoming festival, the Drink and Shoot, in the wake of Terry's death. Drink and Shoot is an annual festival that they host in Woodhaven every year, of course, where they all get drunk and go out to the woods to hunt the famous Woodhaven beast. Because that sounds safe. Yeah. Let's all go in the woods, get plastered, and try to hunt a beast. That definitely won't result in any casualties or any other issues. Why would it? So we get to go to the bar with Lou here. He's taking some notes, while he's of course taking some drinks, because why wouldn't he? Through his notes, we learn that the festival has been cancelled every 32 years, it would seem. Tina is also very suspicious about this because she says, think about the last time that this was cancelled. And we do actually get to see a little bit about the last time it was cancelled in a little moment here. But at the current time, we can see the barkeep has been flirting with Lou quite a bit, and she decides to close up the place, and she wants to take him home with her, more or less, But while she's taking out the trash, we see some robbers attempting to assess the area, basically, to look and see if they can break in, So when she comes back from doing closing duties, Lou has to rush away because he's starting to experience a little bit of a sickness, it seems. He runs to the bathroom, vomits in the sink. He turns to take a last piss. And here's where it gets nudity I was mentioning earlier, as the camera does pan down to his penis. But we watch him pee, and the stream slowly turns red, so almost as if he's peeing blood, which to me is not something I like to see. I don't mind blood and gore usually, because I'm very used to watching horror movies. I grew up watching them, and I still do to this day. But something about the idea of somebody peeing blood makes me uncomfortable, because I'm always thinking about, if that was me. And I would not want that to be me, because that is a horrible, horrible thought. But regardless, we do get to pan down to that. We see it bleeding. That's not a fun sight. And then his skin starts to tear open, starting in the groinal area and spreading throughout the rest of his body. You get to see his skin peel off as fur is revealed underneath. There's a great shot of his arm peeling off, and you see the wolf claw emerging. gotta say, that's a really unique transformation, a very bloody and graphic transformation for a werewolf. But I really like the idea of him having to literally shed his human skin to become the werewolf. That is actually a pretty metal idea. So, while he's transforming in the bathroom, you see the robbers coming in. They've broken into the bar, and one of them comes into the bathroom. Not really sure why, maybe he just had to use it. But, not a good time, as Lou, now fully transformed, grabs him and kills him off the screen. One important part to me, at least here, was that we don't get to see Lou's face when he's transformed. Not right away, at least. Not until later. But right now, we just get to see arms and, like a blur. His body. So the other robber, the second one, goes into the bathroom after the first one because he wants to go check on him. I guess, just to make sure he's alright, because he heard him scream. And the second robber gets spared, though he doesn't get killed. But Lou does rip his shirt off, and he flees and runs away. You see Jessica sneaking around the corner, peeking around the corner, rather, to see Lou in his transformed state as he steps out of the bathroom house. We still don't see Lou at all as far as the face goes. All we've seen is his arm, and we did get a brief shot of his boot as he walked out of the bathroom. So you get to see the wolf claws on his feet, piercing through the boots he was wearing. But other than that, we do not get to see what he looks like. We cut to the next morning, and Lou has been chained to a bed. I think it's funny, he's got a freaking, one of those fuzzy, like, kink handcuffs holding him to the bed. So at first you think maybe something else happened, because there's also a camera in front of the bed that he's on. So it looks really sus, at first. But then Willie walks in and tells him, hey, sorry, that's the only cuffs I had, unfortunately. So we learned that Willie found Lou in the forest last night and tranquilized his ass while he was in wolf form. He shows a recording showing this. He's recording showing this, and he shows it to Lou. Lou, of course, does not believe that he's a werewolf, but Willie offers to make him breakfast. Since, could not do that, basically. And Willie, to prove his point, puts some wolf's bane into Lou's eggs. And of course, as soon as he eats those eggs, he spits them back up, and of course, he is not happy about that. So, but Willie is, because he's like, look, this proves it. This proves you're a wolf. This proves you're a werewolf. He's like, it's like you guys' garlic, basically. Compared to vampires. Lou's still not happy with him now after that. But they do agree that it must be true. And they go on about the next couple days or so are going to be full moons. And as well as there's going to be an eclipse before we get to the new moon. So they agree that they have to have him locked up and keep him safe and keep him away from other people on those nights when the full moon comes out. And of course they'll have the eclipse. Because she had found out that Lou was there anyways. She lets him know about the incident at Jessica's bar, so they both head on over to check out the crime scene in the bar. So of course, we go to the same bathroom where Lou had his little killing moment, transformation moment. So we get into there and we see the walls painted with blood, basically. The coroner's already there, checking out the scene. They say it's a double homicide, more or less, because they find the skin of Lou, and they find the corpse of the other man they killed. I think it's pretty funny. There's a little scene here when they find the skin. They don't really seem to be that put off by it, because But they find the face, or Tina finds the face, and she fucking picks it up and starts, like, mimicking Lou, because she's like, oh look, this one looks kind of like you. She puts it up to her face and starts going, look at me, I'm Lou, I'm a drunk bastard, or something like that. It's like, man, that's kind of fucked up. Because what if that was actually somebody's remains and not actually Lou's skin? That would have been fucking crazy to do. But I did also want to bring up this right here, this idea of having the werewolf shed their skin, quite literally. Reminds me a lot of the old Goosebumps book, Werewolf Skin, which is, I know, a children's book, but shut up. But in there, it was that the werewolves would have to don their wolf skin to transform, whereas this one is you must take off your human skin to transform. So, very interesting. Like a parallel there. Anyways, Lou offers to take the night shift off of Tina's hands tonight. He says it's like, oh, well, I've been giving you a hard time because I haven't been showing up for work properly and all that, so I wanted to give you a break and I'll take over for you. So she doesn't complain, I wouldn't either. So, then we get to see the crook from last night who had escaped, and he's talking to his gang boss, who we met earlier in the bar. He tells him about Lou being a wolf and everything, and boss does not take very kindly to the fact of his failure. And he takes a knife out, and the crook had said that he saw the wolf with his own 2 eyes, so the leader takes the knife and plunges it into the eyeball of the crook. I can't remember right or left, but it was one of his eyeballs, of course. He then takes the eyeball out of his head with that knife, and just skewers it with the knife, pulls it back out, throws the knife to the wall, pinning the eyeball onto the wall with the knife. It's pretty gross, but kind of cool at the same time. We have Lou in the library. He's investigating about the last time the drink and shoot got cancelled, 32 years ago. And this is where we learn the 2 people who died the last time that this festival got cancelled was Lou's father, who was a cop at the time, and Tina's father as well, who used to be the old bartender. So it's likely that they had the same thing happen to them. We learn later on about that as well. But while at the library, Lou decides to borrow a book on the occult, considering the fact of all the pentagrams he's been seeing around. So he takes that book with him back to Lily's, and they discuss about 2 passages in the book. We have the werewolf passage, which explains how the ritual works. During the ritual, an innocent person is sacrificed, and while they die, below them, the other person is to have a pentagram carved into their chest to curse them as a werewolf. We also learned that most of the time when they would do these werewolves, it would be someone insignificant, the town fool, town drunk, and of course we know where Lou stands in that area. But so then there's the question of why would they want a werewolf? Well, it turns out shapeshifters would be the answer. You may want to know, you may be wondering, what the fuck does that mean? What that means is that shapeshifters apparently need a werewolf's blood to keep themselves alive and to stay powerful. So the idea is that on the eclipse, when the werewolf is at its weakest, they take the werewolf and drain its blood and drink it, and in the process kill the werewolf. After this, we have Lou and Lily later that night. Lou has Willie lock him up in the one of the cells inside the precinct. So when he transforms, he's inside the cell already. And Willie has set up a camera because he wants to capture this on video, the transformation, of course. So Lou begins to transform again, tearing his skin up and everything. And Willie is very shocked to see that, of course, which I would not blame him. But we finally get to see his wolf face as the skin on his face, his human face, starts to break. He rips it off, and then we finally get to see his wolf face. Which, again, pretty well done up. The wolf effects in this are not too bad. They actually look rather realistic. So, yeah, there's a funny scene of as soon as he transforms, he has to down some freaking bourbon that Willie hands him. He takes a whole bottle of bourbon and just slams it. It's ridiculous. And then he even has to have some donuts, because you know what? He's a cop. Of course, gotta have the donuts. A few hours pass by and they try to pass the time playing cards and stuff, but, you know, eventually, a call comes through reporting a robbery at the local corner store, which I thought was funny. The corner store's name is Liquor Donuts. Their catchphrase is Liquor Donuts. What else could you need? Silly shit. But yeah, they're basically just a corner store. You know, they sell alcohol and other random snacks and goods, and apparently even clothes and stuff, as we find out in the second movie. But you know, that's neither here nor there. Either way, so Lou also reminds me there's a scene when Louis goes to take the call. He's in the cell, of course, at first, right? But he just opens the door, like pushes open the door, and that's it. Like, was it really locked? Was he just not locked in the whole time? Because if he'd like pulled the bars open and walked out that way, that I can understand that, because, like, you know, the door's locked. So it's either he's so strong that he just effortlessly broke the lock, or he just fucking didn't get locked in the first place. So, who knows? Anyways, Lou and Willie, because Willie comes with him, arrive on the scene in his wolf form, of course. And see, it's those piggy robbers from earlier in the movie that we saw, that we were introduced to. There's 3 of them, as I said before. There's 3 piggies. Ha ha ha. They go in there and blow them down, obviously. So we have the driver piggy in the getaway car. We have another one who's taking merchandise to and from the store, or from the store to the van, I mean to say. And then we have a 3rd one inside demanding money from the cash register. So, Lou starts off by taking the getaway driver. He smashes the window with his claw and then kills him off screen, more or less. And then the second piggy comes out to try to deliver some more stolen goods to the van, to drop them off and then go back and get some more stuff, you know. But he makes it to the van, and then Lou is there. So he kills both of those 2 and heads inside. There are some civilians and the robber and the shopkeeper all. He has a brief shootout with that 3rd piggy, which ultimately ends in the piggy taking one of the civilians hostage. So he does that. Lou runs around, and he just runs around an aisle to get right next to the robber and roars in his face, and that is enough to knock him out. So he's not dead, he got spared. But after that, he promptly leaves. He grabs some bourbon and some donuts to go, doesn't pay for it, but doesn't look like the shopkeep cares too much, to be honest. So when he tries to get back in his car, he breaks the door off. They spy a auto body shop across the street, so they go into there and they start to trick out his ride. The funny thing is, you would think, oh, we're going to go in the auto body shop to fix the door, right? No, instead we're going to rip off the other door. We have both the passenger and the driver's side door gone now. They keep the back seat doors, thankfully. But anyways, they rip off both doors instead of fixing one door, and then they paint the car all black, and he takes his claws in the shape of a W into his hood. Rather, I should say he carves it, because you see that he took the W out of the hood that he carved. So he took the W out, put that on his trunk, and we have, so he has like a little a W that's just standing up, almost like a race car would have wings. He has that on his back. And then he has just the etching. You can see the internals of the vehicle through the W shape on the hood. And that's his tricked out ride. So, after pimping his ride, they run off to find the rest of the gang. And they're in the barn, having a party, getting drunk and stuff. We see the gang leader take off from the party into a private room, where he grabs this strange red, almost glittery powder out of the fridge, and starts to snort it like it's cocaine. After he gets his fix, he hears a call, because he has a ham radio in this room, that I guess can pick up police signals. So he hears Tina calling for help about the robbery situation, as she got called on site. Which is weird, because she was supposed to be off duty, but I guess, maybe she got called in somehow or another. Regardless, it's with her and the chief at the convenience store once again, and they're talking with the shopkeeper, who tells them about, like, oh yeah, it was the Wolfcop that came by and stopped the robbers. And Chief just heads off, kind of pissed off looking. Of course, neither of them really seem to believe him. Meanwhile, we have Lou once again, as I said. He's coming upon the barn, crashes into the barn with his vehicle, and just starts going ham on these freaking gang members. It's funny because there's all of them in this one room, but they all face him one-on-one. It's kind of like when you would watch Power Rangers as a kid, and they just freaking, like, the other, like, baddies are all just sitting back there, like, dancing around doing nothing while one gets their ass beat. That's what it felt like, except we don't actually see the ones in the background, so it felt a little more realistic, but not as much. Either way, we get to see some pretty bloody shit here, as we get one guy's face torn off, and he's literally just, we get to see him with just his skull screaming. It's crazy. Like, he's still got other parts of his face, like, he's still got some skin on his head, but, like, you see his skull is, like, just everything else has been ripped off. Then he takes another guy, stabs him through the chest with his claws, then takes that claw out and swipes his head off. And then lastly, another guy tries to come up and pounce on him from behind. He gets his arm torn off. We then see the meth lab that they had gets lit on fire. So Lou gets back in his car and drives off, and the barn just explodes. So, yeah, just killing several people there casually. Lou and Willie return back to the station, and they find there Jessica in the bar. She's dressed in a freaking Red Riding Hood costume. Because, yeah, of course she is. Anyways, she and Lou are giving each other the whole fuck me eyes, so of course they send Willie away, and here's where we get the freaking weird scene I was talking about earlier. One of them, at least. It's one in the second movie as well. So, right. Lou and her go into one of the cells, and they have sex while he is a werewolf. Now, you don't really get to see much nudity in this situation, thankfully, so it's mostly just her breasts is the most you would see, but it does feel like it goes on for a while, showing like the various things that they're doing to one another. It's kind of, it's the kind of thing you don't really want to see, personally at least. I don't know, maybe you want to see it, but it wasn't for me. Definitely not. But this does end up being slightly important, as it turns out she was trying to seduce him to distract him in a way. See, once they're done doing the deed, she then takes some kind of powder and slips it into his alcohol. She offers him a drink, and he of course accepts, and then he starts to double over in pain and whatnot, realizing that she drugged him. She steps out of the cage, and it's revealed that she is a shapeshifter. So we see Jessica shift into the form of the mayor. the current mayor, Mayor Bradley. So that means that this whole time, she has been the mayor. Because there is no Jessica, basically. It's always been Mayor Bradley. She has always been Jessica, and vice versa. After that reveal, Lou is knocked out from whatever drugs she had given him. When he wakes up next time, he's chained to a tree in his human form. It's been a little over a day at least. We learned that the eclipse is fast approaching now. It's already the next night, beginning to be the next night. Meanwhile, Tina checks out the footage from last night, the security camera footage. And she gets to see the whole scene that played out last night, so she knows now that he's been kidnapped by the mayor. And we also get to see that Willie's been in on this the whole time as well. It's after Lou's knocked out the night before, Willie comes into the room to talk with the mayor. We learned it was his job to actually keep Lou basically locked away until the eclipse night, and that he was supposed to bring him to them. So Lou is in the forest, chained to a tree now, with Willie and the mayor. We have our third person show up. We have the gang leader show up. He has his gang with him, and they set up a perimeter outside the forest to make sure no one else can come in. Then the leader walks over to the tree as he transforms into the chief of police. So there's another twist there, is that the chief and the gang leader were the same person, which explains why he had the police radio in his room. I initially thought that it was just like, oh, no, of course he has it, he's a criminal, he wants to hear, to make sure that he can, hear when his gang's in trouble, or other things like that, But now it makes a little bit more sense, because it's actually the chief the whole time. Tina arrives on the scene, and she starts to stealthily make her way through the forest. She sets up a sniper rifle to take out some of the goons. While that's happening, Lou is transforming into his wolf form as the eclipse starts to take place. She takes out some gang members and is able to get closer to where Lou is, but not before they take the blade. They have a ceremonial blade. It's a sword, really, if anything. I was going to say ceremonial dagger, but it's more of a sword. Either way, they stab that into Lou's stomach area and start to drain his blood into a cup. As they're doing that, Tina is able to get a clean shot on Willie. It's a clean headshot on him, collapses to the floor. This of course alerts the other two long enough for Lou to be able to break his chains and run away. So Lou, now in wolf form, is trying to run. He's still got his wound. He runs into the gang members and has to fight them off. Meanwhile, Tina is facing off against the mayor. We get to see Willie, his body spontaneously combusts into flames, and we have a reveal of the true form, which is a kind of lizard person. Let's just say lizard with large bulging eyes. I kind of wonder if it's a take on that whole Reploid conspiracy theory that people throw around. The one that says that people in power are all lizard folk or something. Wouldn't surprise me if that's one of their angles of this movie. Anyways, we also have the gang leader. He runs off to go rally his troops to try to get after the Wolfcop. Tina and Jessica are fighting now because the mayor has taken his changed form back into Jessica to fight her. And Lou is able to circle back around to where Tina and her are fighting. He lets out a loud roar to distract Jessica. This gives Tina the opportunity to shoot her. She returns to her true form and dies and combusts. The chief comes back and happens upon them. He's back in his gang leader form again, and takes on Lou one on one. But while they're fighting, earlier during Tina's fight before Jessica got killed, we find out that it was Tina's father who was sacrificed, which means that Lou's father was the werewolf. So basically this is all playing out again, just making Lou sort of it's almost like something you inherit, I suppose. Suddenly it's kind of funny how they chose both of them, father and son, to both be the werewolf. It's interesting. And of course, Lou's father is not as loving as Lou, because Lou clearly making this out of this alive. So, Lou and the chief are fighting, as Tina is watching from the sidelines, because she has a gang member holding her back. She's able to get away from him to break loose, and she gets a hold of the ceremonial sword from earlier. She stabs the chief through the stomach all the way out. So it means from the back all the way to the front of his stomach. You can see the blade going all the way through. It's a very long blade, obviously. That's why I call it a sword rather than a dagger. So, Chief then grabs her, he shoves her against a tree, and he stabs her with the blade while it's still inside of his body. So he basically just, gets up and, shifts his body onto hers and stabs her with the blade. But this gives Lou a chance to grab his pistol. He shouts at him to get his attention and shoots him square in the forehead, killing him instantly. Collapses, bursts into flames, of course. And then we see the eclipse finally has ended. The sun and moon are no longer in front of each other. And Lou has returned to human form. So him and Tina drive off as he promises to take her to the hospital, but not until after he gets a drink. That was Wolfcop 1. And that was not too bad. The plot's pretty simple. You get the easy story beats, of discovering your werewolf, using your powers, take out some local baddies, and then just, taking out the threat and going, simple story, right? Well, prepare to have a not-so-simple story in the next one here. The next one we have is from 2017. So through a whole 3 years after the first movie, we finally got the sequel that you were definitely clamoring for, called Another Wolfcop. This one's plot gets a little more convoluted and crazy, involving more shapeshifters and some parasitic beings and whatnot, as well as a very questionable flavor of beer that I have to wonder if it had any significance being that at all, or if they just made it up for the purposes of being funny. And I believe it's the latter. But we've also found out, by the way, that Wolfcop even got some time as a comic book series for a little bit. I didn't look into any of those for this podcast, but I'm somewhat intrigued. I also would like to mention that Another Wolfcop got nominated as one of the best Canadian pictures, apparently. So, Canada, this is your pride and joy, I suppose. Here we are, Another Wolfcop. Now, before we get into this one, again, I do want to mention that there will be a lot of blood in this movie if you decided you want to go and check out the second one for some reason. Just know it's bloody, it's got some gore, it's not as bloody as the first one, I would say. There's a little less actual showing of the blood, but there is one scene in particular that's pretty gory that I can think of off the top of my head. And there's also another awkward transformed sex scene, but this time with a different character. Tables are turned this time as we get Lou in his human form and another person who's transformed. But we'll get into that when we get to that. Another Wolfcop opens on a commercial for a new product called Chicken Milk Beer. Just gotta be the least appetizing sounding product I've ever heard. But it's through this commercial that we are introduced to a brand new character. And his name is Sydney Swallows. What a name. Honestly, that's gotta be a bad name to have, because can you imagine growing up with that name? That last name at least? You would get bullied like crazy. Anyways, the commercial gets cut short though, as we see the boom mic smack Sydney in the face. Sydney, of course, gets pissed off, calls cut, and he walks over to some of his assistants. He has an assistant in a lab coat, and another assistant, which is a lady with what you call it, like a mullet kind of haircut, basically. So he has the lady with the mullet kill the boom operator. She shoves the boom mic through the man's mouth, out the other side of his head. So that's crazy. Then he talks to the scientist lady, and she shows him this prototype that they've been working on, apparently. It's this odd wand-like object with spinning lights on it. And so then he asks about his alpha test subject. And we cut to Wolfcop chasing some baddies in their van. They're all dressed up in Christmas clothes, because guess what? Another Wolfcop? It's a Christmas movie. Merry Crisis. Go see yourself a Wolfcop for Christmas. Maybe that's gonna be the third movie. Just get like a Hallmark fucking remake, and it's just a Wolfcop for Christmas to go along with all those Prince BS movies that they make. Regardless. So we have the two guys in the back of the van trying to shoot at Wolfcop. They're dressed in like Christmas sweaters, and they have like here's a Christmas sweater pattern ski mask over their heads, and then the driver is dressed up as Santa Claus. Anyways, they're shooting at Wolfcop, but it's to no avail. One of them brings out a fucking bazooka and blows up his car, but not before he can get out, as we see the Wolfcop on the ceiling on the roof of their car, their van. He grabs his arm down, and he rips some of their heads off, and then he bursts the roof to kill the other one. Meanwhile, we see Tina at the convenience store, and she's with a new recruit here, Scott, brand new character for the film, of course. He's kind of a bumbling idiot, as we'll get to say later, but regardless, as they're getting back into the car with the goods that they purchased, they see the van that Wolfcop was in speeding down the road, heading towards the precinct. So they run into their patrol car and chase after the vehicle. Meanwhile, we get to see some shots inside the van as Lou has made his way up to the driver's seat, and he stabs through the seat and through the chest of the driver with his claws, killing him. And killing him, he stops the van as well in the precinct parking lot. Coming out of the station is another recruit. Her name is Daisy. She comes out with a shotgun in hand to inspect the van as Tina and Scott pull up and catch up with them with the van. You get to see inside the van is a whole lot of blood, so there is a bit of blood here, as I mentioned, but not as much, in my opinion. Actually, you know what? Take it back. It's pretty bloody still, so regardless, we see blood in there and a present box, which will become important later. Daisy shoots at an animal that she sees coming by, or running by, which is of course Wolfcop. We hear the howling. He gets away though, and they don't really get a good look at him anyways, at this moment. But Tina leaves, and she has Scott set up the police tape around this van so that no one can get into it, mess with it, because there's freaking severed heads and blood and another fucking body in the driver's seat, so it's not exactly a great look for that to be in front of the police station, but you know, oh well. So, we also learned here that Tina is now the chief of police, which, you know, rightfully so. She actually does her job unlike some other cops in this movie. But she goes off to find the nearby animal shelter. where we've learned that Wolfcop has been going there to lock himself up in the solitary area, where I assume they keep the, problem cats and dogs that maybe don't get along with other cats and dogs, So, anyways, animal shelter is a solitary confinement area, and that's where Wolfcop has been locking himself up to, as he's supposed to do. And he's made himself a nice little, living room type area inside there, where he has a recliner and a TV set and, a little table. So, he's there vegging out, watching some TV when Tina comes upon him. Pantless, unfortunately, so we do get to see his fucking wolf penis, Wolfcop, more like Wolfcock, am I right? Anyways. Thankfully it's not close up, so I don't have to see anything too detailed. So that's the last thing I want. But she scolds him for going out as the Wolfcop again because he's not supposed to. He's supposed to stay here in this room. He's supposed to, lock up. But he reveals that the reason he went after them was because of because he found the mark of the shapeshifters on them. So that she tells him, well, we'll look into that, but you still need to be careful. But so the next morning, it's more exposition radio again. We learn about Sydney Swallows, the man from the commercial from earlier. He's coming to Woodhaven to reopen the Dark Star Brewery, which is making that chicken milk beer product that they saw the commercial for. And renovating the arena, the ice hockey arena, that is inside the same building as the brewery. Which I don't know if that's a normal thing. Maybe it's a normal thing in Canada. It sounds a little odd to me. But again, maybe it's a Canadian thing. I don't know. But he mentions that they'll be hosting a special event for once the arena is fully renovated. They'll be hosting the first game in a long time there. He invites the whole town to come see it. We also learn about the new mayor. His name is Mayor Bubba Rich. They say he's an interim mayor, but it really doesn't make much difference. He's still the mayor, basically. He's still the one in charge, so it doesn't make a lot of difference to the story. But he's played by Kevin Smith, actually. You may know from several other comic book related things. He's also Silent Bob from Jay and Silent Bob. Anyways, he plays the mayor in this mayor. He showing off the new chicken milk beer to Tina and Daisy. He tries to get both of them to try it, but of course they don't want to, because one, they're on duty, and two, bleh, gross. But he seems to think that this new brewery arena thing is going to revitalize the city of Woodhaven. It's probably going to do the opposite of that, honestly. So we'll see. Meanwhile, Lou takes the present box into the garage of the precinct and gets it opened up. Inside he finds just a bunch of green goop. He calls it lizard goo for some reason, which I thought was funny. But it's just really green, viscous liquid. So that's fun. He turns around to make a call, tells Tina what he found inside of it. While he's making the call, turned around distracted, you can see an arm rise out of the present box. Human arm. We have Willie emerge from the box in the last movie. Turns out he's not so dead after all, I suppose. He comes up to Lou while he's still on the phone, gets his face is decked in the face. Lou is not expecting, of course. They have a brief discussion, and it turns out that Willie is not the same Willie from the last movie, as that was a shapeshifter that took his place. So, this is the real Willie, who has always been here. It's here that we also learn that it's been a year since the last movie, but regardless of that, we find out that Willie has no memory of what happened as far as, the whole Wolfcop situation, so he doesn't even know that Lou was a Wolfcop. We find that out kind of later on, but it's still relevant to know it. But it's still relevant to know, I would say. Anyways, he has to excuse himself because he needs to use the restroom. He ends up shitting his pants. fingerprints over there, so she gives Lou an excuse to go to the liquor store, to the convenience store rather, to get him some fingerprints. So Lou heads off to do that. Meanwhile, we get to see Sydney's scientist assistant from earlier is making a new android. And we get to see that there's some shapeshifters working with her in this lab. So, in case it wasn't obvious, of course, he's our enemy. So Lou makes a run to Liquor Donuts to get some beers and pick up underwear for Willie. While he's there, he sees this unlicensed Wolfcop merch, which I just had to love. So the Liquor Donuts, of course, like I said in the last movie, was saved by Wolfcop, of course, So they've decided to bank on this, and they've made a bunch of unlicensed merch. And basically the merch boils down to mostly them just slapping a Wolfcop label on a bunch of items. Like there's a bra that just has the Wolfcop logo on there, and then it just says Cop a Feel. And then some other items include a lunchbox, and one of those like toy police sets that you can buy at like Dollar Tree or something, where it's just like a fake gun, some suction cup darts, and a pair of handcuffs. And there's even like a novelty like gag condom, it looks like. It's like a giant condom that no one could wear basically because it's so freaking girthy. There's also like, I guess, the Wolfcop merch somehow. It's so dumb. But it's just a fun little thing, I thought. But anyways, while he's there, he gets to see Sydney on a interview talking about all the things he wants to do with the brewery and how he thinks it's going to be a great thing and all that stuff. But it's kind of really nothing because it's something we already know. It's more or less just to introduce the characters to the plot that's moving forward. Meanwhile, we get to see that same android that they were making earlier in the lab. He goes over to the strip club in town. He gets like kind of harassed by one of the patrons that's there. Promptly rips his arm off. So that's fun. So he kills a man. He kills a few of the bystanders, if I'm not mistaken, as well. And then, meanwhile, while that's happening, we have Willie in the bathroom fighting for his life, trying to take this shit. But then we realize it's not a shit that he's trying to take, because if he gets... This is where it gets a little weird. Which is a funny phrase to say, I know, about these movies. But we get a scene kind of akin to the chestburster from Alien, where a worm-like being bursts out of Willie's stomach, and it's like a worm being, but it has a human face, a humanoid face on it that looks like Willie, and then it has his voice when he speaks as well. So that's fun, and it's stuck inside his stomach, it won't come out. All that's happening as well, Lou starts to transform into the wolf again in his armchair. Tina comes by and drops off some donuts and a porno mag to keep him busy. Tells him, you better stay locked up tonight. So then she returns back to the station. Willie comes out of the bathroom looking for Lou, but he finds Tina instead. And of course, she's suspicious because she's like, how do we know it's the real you? How do we know you're not another shapeshifter or something, right? Which is valid, honestly. But she shows her, the his parasite thing coming out of his stomach. Because he had it hidden under his shirt. But he reveals it to her. She offers to shoot it off, but she gets a call from Scott and Daisy. See, Scott and Daisy had gone to the strip club about the disturbance there because the android was killing people. And Scott shows up there with her drinking one of those chicken milk beer things. But they head into the club and they see all the blood and the arms, the severed arms. And Daisy's like, oh, we gotta call for backup. We can't do this alone. So she goes to radio Tina. While she's there radioing, she can hear Scott scream. So we see Scott inside has discovered that the android is still there on the scene. It scans him, like a thermo scans him, so we can see his heat signature. And it sees a green mass in his belly. And once it sees that, it promptly just turns around and decides not to mess with him. But Scott, not taking no for an answer, tries to shoot at the android. This does nothing to it because it's an android, so it does not have, it's basically bulletproof. So Tina leaves Willie behind to go to the scene of the crime. While she's heading there, we see that Lou has also gotten a message on his radio. He decides to go on the scene despite what Tina told him anyways. He goes to the precinct, and him and Willie go together to the scene. And that's where we get to see that Willie did not know that Lou was the wolf, because he's like, oh my god, you're a wolf. He's like, cop. So they did the same gag in the first movie, where it's, oh my god, you're a wolf. And he just answers, cop. It's like gruff werewolf voice, and it's just like, we get it, guys. It's in the title. It's okay. It was fun though. I don't lie. Anyways, so him and Willie head over to the scene, and Tina heads to the scene by herself. But Tina's not happy to see him there because he's the wolf cop, but she doesn't worry about it right now. She goes into the strip club with him to, of course, see that the android's still there again. Scott's dead, but the android's there. So they start fighting. They try to shoot at him again, but android, bulletproof, Lou tries to take him on with his claws, which I don't know what he was thinking, why that would work, but he tries. He gets his ass handed to him. But Tina, being resourceful, finds some liquor bottles on the floor and some matches, and takes one of the bottles that sells liquor in it, a rag, and a match, makes herself a Molotov cocktail, throws it at the android, and thankfully that's enough to take it down. This android is in flames and burned, and that's enough to take it out. Well, Lou goes with Willie, so Willie has an idea to take him somewhere to get some help. Because Lou is now badly injured after the ass beating he got from the android. He's reverted back to human form now as well, as the sun has risen. So Willie drives him away to see his sister, who apparently has experience with the occult. Meanwhile, we see the villains have recovered the android's body, and they find the footage on the android. So I guess it had cameras in its eyes or something, probably. And they find about Wolfcop. Sydney demands that Wolfcop be killed if he continues to interfere. And this makes me wonder, though, what was the point of the android? What was the point of the android? Because it really didn't do much of anything except for alert them to the existence of the werewolf. But what was it supposed to do? Because it just goes to the strip club and then kills people. What was it supposed to do? Because they don't say what it's supposed to do. It's just, here's an android. It's dead now. But we found out about the Wolfcop, though. It's very weird. Very strange. Meanwhile, back with Willie and Lou, they arrive at Willie's sister's house. Willie's sister is named Kat. Earlier we mentioned that she knows about the occult. So she's able to find out that Lou is a werewolf, and she knows just the thing to fix lives. So she takes a moon rock, an actual rock from the moon, like they got from Apollo missions and whatnot. Takes that, she crushes it to a powder and gives it to him. And that makes him feel better. But they still tell him he has to stay and rest. So, thankfully they're able to convince him to do so. Meanwhile, Tina is observing her evidence board that she has. And she's looking at the Shapeshifter logo and the Darkstar logo. She notices that they're basically the same logo, just that the Shapeshifter logo the Darkstar logo just has the name Darkstar in the middle of the logo for the Shapeshifters. The logo for Shapeshifters is basically just a pentagram with some swords crossed below the pentagram, and you can see part of the star and part of the swords, just that they have the Darkstar name just overlapping it basically to cover up part of it. So she realizes that, she grabs Daisy, and they go over to the brewery/arena. Meanwhile, Lou, Willie, and Kat go to a bar to rest and relax and stuff. Now, Willie has been wearing his shirt the whole time and covering up the fact that he has a parasite. So no one knows he has a parasite, except for Tina. But while they're at the bar, Willie's parasite won't keep its mouth shut. Like I said, it does talk in Willie's voice, so they keep thinking he's saying weird shit. Instead, it's the fucking parasite. So he excuses himself. He goes back to Kat's house. Meanwhile, Daisy and Tina have arrived at the brewery, and they're sneaking around. They hear Sydney talking about how he wants to take out Lou, so he can't be a problem for them anymore. Then we get to see back at Kat's home that Willie is vegging out on the couch. He's got a joint. He's doing a little puff pass with the little parasite. See, it has arms too, I forgot to mention. It has like these little weird, like, small human hands that basically it's like little T-Rex arms almost on it. So it does a little puff pass with the fucking parasite. It's hilarious to me. But while he's doing that, Lou and Kat come in and they're just, like, heavily making out. And it was, like, implied for a bit that they were definitely, like, into each other. But they come in, they don't even notice Willie, and they just make their way to the bedroom. And here we go with another awkward sex scene. But there's a slightly important thing that we learn here. Two slightly important things, actually. So, we find out here that moon dust, if snorted while nighttime, can transform the person into their werewolf form if they are a lycanthrope. But it also works, apparently, on werecats, as we learned that Cat is a werecat. So, just like a werewolf, but in cat form. So she snorts some of the freaking moon dust and becomes a werecat, and then has sex with Lou while he's in human form. And once again, it's uncomfortable. I just want to know why the creator couldn't just let them have human sex. Like, please, can't you just have human fucking sex? But not be nearly as uncomfortable to watch that as opposed to watching a fucking naked man giving back shots to a fucking werecat. It's not on my bucket list, and I did not want to see that. It's pretty uncomfortable, and it feels pretty drawn out. It's only like maybe a minute long, if not less, but it's enough. It's enough. Anyways, after that pointless scene, we have Willie in the living room. He's turned on the TV to drown them out, rightfully so. And on the TV, they play the commercial for the chicken milk beer. As the commercial plays, the parasite that Willie has begins to become entranced by the commercial. Like, he won't stop looking at it, and it starts to kind of like vibrate, and it dives back into Willie's body, and we start to see it like kind of transform inside his body. Before we get to see what happens with it, we cut away back to Mayor Rich, who's with Sydney inside the arena brewery thing. Sydney gives him some money because it seems that it was more of a bribe than anything. It seems as though this was all a plot between the two of them to get that brewery back up and running. But he also gives him one of the chicken beers to celebrate. The mayor downs it, and then we see Sydney takes that device from earlier, at the beginning of the movie, that wand-like device. He powers it on, and Mayor Rich gets his stomach burster of his own. But this one is more like a lizard. So it bursts out of his stomach, and it bites into his neck and kills him. Tina and Daisy are still in this arena at this time, and Daisy is taken by one of the goons. She gets a chloroform rag over her face, and she's dragged away while Tina's not paying attention. Back at Kat's house, we see that won't see it yet, but Willie is panicked because his parasite has finally come out of his body and is apparently running rampant inside of Kat's house. So he goes to wake up Kat and Lou, and they come out and we see the parasite now in its new form, which is sort of a lizard form. And I will say the effects on the lizard puppets, not as good. They're pretty shitty looking. They don't even look real, to be honest. But regardless, they're able to shoot and kill it. And Kat explains that is a baby shapeshifter and apparently there's something up with Earth's atmosphere that makes it so that they can't reproduce normally, but that they must have found a way around this to impregnate humans and get them to carry them. So basically they can't reproduce with each other, but if they put it into a human body, they're able to reproduce that way. So the next day we have the arena is opening for its first initial hockey game. Tina is back at the precinct getting her arsenal ready. She gets all kinds of guns and stuff ready to go storm the castle, so to speak. So Lily and Lou meet up with her as well, and they go back to the arena. There's no full moon tonight, they learned, but Willie has brought with him a huge moon rock so that they can use that to transform Lou. They arrive on scene to the arena. Lou is transformed into a werewolf, and all three of them grab some staff members, knock them out, and take their uniforms as a disguise. So we get Willie as a referee, Lou becomes the goalie, and Tina is, I think, its worker. So he comes out to the rink and he makes a speech about his whole desire that this will help Woodhaven become better. And he raises a toast to the new team, the Dark Stars, which they show these robotic-looking hockey players that are supposed to be the new team. It's alluded that these guys may not be human, but they bleed like humans, and they die like humans, so they're human enough in my book. Anyways, he then goes ahead and has them rise for the Canadian National Anthem. So, during the anthem, he once again powers on the device that we saw earlier, that little wand with the spinning lights. And everyone in the crowd starts to vomit and get sunbursters of their own. So in case you haven't caught on yet, the beer is placing the parasites in their body, and this device, whatever it does, somehow is able to wake the parasites from their slumber and have them burst through to be born into the world, basically. Willie goes into the to the DJ booth, confronts the DJ, so he kills him because it turns out that the DJ was also a shapeshifter and was in on this. On his way to the DJ booth, he does kill a few of the shifter berries, but there's still a lot of them around that I would say we're probably not taken care of by the end of this movie. So, kind of curious, honestly. But Tina has everyone evacuate the building, while Louis takes on some of the Dark Stars. And this is where I was saying, like, Tina alludes to the fact that because she sees somebody working on the Dark Star guys in the back room of the stadium, and she's like, I don't think these guys are human. But there's a scene here when Lou is fighting off the Dark Stars. He takes the guy's skin and rips it off his back, and you see like his spinal column and his flesh, or his muscle, I should say. So, it looks pretty human to me, in my opinion, you know? Regardless, while he fights them, Tina is caught in a fight with that lady with the mullet I mentioned earlier, and the goons of Sydney's. So they're fighting. Willie steps in to save her, and he shoots the other woman in the leg. Tina rushes off because Sydney reveals that he has had Daisy hostage this whole time. So he takes her as a human shield and runs off towards the exit. Tina runs after him as the rest of the Dark Stars start to go after Wolfcop. Lou has to break free from some of them as they are starting to overpower him. So he has to break free and goes and re-ups on his moon dust again. The big fucking snort of moon dust, basically. Basically, we got our ass fucking coked up werewolf over here taking on some hockey players. What more could you want from a movie, honestly? After taking his fucking cocaine, his moon cocaine or whatever, he gets a scythe from Willie and then just starts going ham on all those rest of those Dark Stars. Takes them all down. After he takes out all the Dark Stars, a freaking militarized Zamboni comes up, rolls onto the rink, and it's got a mounted gun on it too, and it starts to shoot at Wolfcop. While that's happening, we see that Tina has caught Sydney. She shoots him in the ear, and he drops and that puts him off guard enough to drop his gun, which Daisy's able to get a hold of and get away. So they both have their guns on him. He reveals that he has a bunch of bombs planted in this arena, and he has the plunger tool to go and set off the bombs. He tells her, "You can either let me go now, and the bombs will be on a timer and set off, and you'll have time to get people out. Or you can shoot me, and I'll just kill all of you with me." So she decides to let him leave, of course, so he escapes. But now, of course, they gotta go get everyone out. But we have the Zamboni, like I mentioned earlier, its bullets seem to work pretty well on Wolfcop. And he is crawling, basically, trying to get away from the Zamboni. It's very close to running him over, but then we could see Cat on the scene. She's transformed into her werecat form. She gets on top of the vehicle and throws the driver from the seat and stops the vehicle. They give Lou even more moon dust as the cheerleaders kick the shit out of the henchwoman. Tina and Daisy return to them in the rink, tells them we gotta get out of here, so everyone runs out, all the civilians that were left, and Willie and Lou and Tina and Daisy and Kat. They all get out before it can explode. They get out to the cars and they watch the explosion happen. And we flash forward a little bit later to their human form, and they all decide to go to the bar and celebrate. And I have to say, what are you celebrating? Because yes, you guys got out alive, but Sydney's still at large, and there's still probably a few shapeshifter babies that got away, because I only saw Willie kill at least maybe one or two inside the arena earlier. So, it wouldn't be too surprising if the rest of them got out the building before, or at least some of them got out of the building before it exploded. And there's also, like I said, the fact that Sydney escaped, so he is definitely alive. In fact, we also get an after credits teaser that says Wolfcop will return. So, and I found out through an interview with the creator that I read, he apparently has plans for a third and fourth film if there's demand for it. So I guess if you really, really love these movies, go make some noise about it. Maybe you'll get a third one. He has plans for it already, apparently. But I'll admit, for as weird and strange as these movies were, they were fun. There's just, like I said, if you're put off by like sex scenes or anything like that, especially ones that feature monsters, you might want to skip those scenes and maybe watch everything else but those scenes. If those movies sound good to you and you want to check them out, they're on Tubi for free, both of them. I'd say they're pretty good, honestly, except for the weird sex parts, but pretty decent movies, all in all, I suppose. Not anything groundbreaking or anything like that, but it's a fun watch, you know. That's not all I have to say about them. I just wish that they would have human sex scenes instead, so if there's a third one, if the creator is listening here, please make a human sex scene at least. You know, it's not, those I'm not nearly as uncomfortable with, because I'm used to seeing those. They're in every movie ever, basically. But thank you all for listening to this. This was an extra long double feature podcast, so I appreciate you showing up, and I appreciate you coming to listen. I hope you enjoyed this little treat. It's not going to happen every time. These ones are a lot longer, and take a lot longer to record and to edit and everything, so if you like this, I hope you appreciate this, and I hope you will follow Spotify to show your continued support. You can also follow me on Twitter and X at BFE Podcasts, podcast with an S. And if you see a skull icon, you found the right guy. Follow me there for updates. I've gotten that page modified to become this podcast page. I had it on there for a while, but I never was really using it, so it just made sense to turn it into the podcast page. So I'll be posting on there about episodes when they release, and about future episodes to show you what's in store for you. So yeah, follow me on Spotify and on Twitter for updates. I hope you enjoyed If you do share this podcast around people you know that might want to hear about bad movies or obscure movies, because that's what we cover here. If you're into that, keep on listening, please. I really do appreciate it. Anyways, that's all the time I have today. So, this is Enigma, signing off. We'll see you next time.